praises to the Most High. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh by Shem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. And I'm going to do this lesson on, is it written or is it vain thought? And I'm going to start with 2 Corinthians. I'm going to start with 2 Corinthians chapter 13, and I'm going to start with verse 8. For we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. This is Apostle Paul, and we know that it was Yahweh Shai speaking through all the prophets because he came in the volume of the book. It was all written of him, but at this time, this is Apostle Paul. He said that, for we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Romans chapter 15, and I'm going to read verse 4, and that reads, For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So all the whole Bible was written aforetime for our learning. And it says, for that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Because we're patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai to come and get us out of this captivity. This is why Apostle Paul was saying this in Romans. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Acts, chapter 10. And it's still Apostle Paul, and I'm going to read verse 1 and 2. And it reads, There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. Verse 2, a devout man, and one that feared Yahweh, with all his house, which gave much alms to the people, and prayed to Yahweh always. So a lot of the people at the Sunday churches, they'll try to say that this Cornelius was a Gentile, but this actually was an Israelite. Why else would he be praying to Yahweh always and giving alms? He was keeping the laws. He was a centurion, but he was still keeping God's laws. That was his profession at the time. That was what he was employed as a centurion. But he feared Yahweh and he kept the laws. So he was not a Gentile. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Tobit, chapter 12 and verse 8, and it reads, Prayer is good with fasting and alms and righteousness. A little with righteousness is better than much with unrighteousness. It is better to give alms than to lay up gold. So prayer and fasting is good, but also alms, because this is a righteous thing. Yeah, this is Tobit was speaking here, but so Tobit was always giving alms, because giving alms is part of keeping the laws of God, because it's a righteous thing. So this is why I titled this lesson, Is it written or is it vain thoughts? So we have to bring out the precepts in spirit and in truth. It has to be the way it's written. We can't give you our imaginations or our thoughts. We have to give it to you as it is written. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Psalms, chapter 148, Acts chapter 10, verse 3 through 4. Go back to Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 10, and I'm going to read verse 3 through 4. And it reads, He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, and an angel of Yahweh coming in to him, and saying unto him, Cornelius. So this was an angel coming to Cornelius. Verse 4, And when he looked on him, he was afraid, and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before Yahweh. So he was acknowledging the prayers that Cornelius was doing and his alms, because he was obedient, giving alms, he was praying, he was doing the things that was pleasing to the Most High. And remember, the prayers of a righteous man, he says, availeth much. This is what James says. The prophet James said that the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. So he does hear the prayers of the righteous. So if this was, he doesn't listen to sinners. Remember in John 9:31, it says, now we know that Yahweh does not listen to sinners, but if any man be a worshiper of Yahweh and doeth his will, him he heareth. So apparently, the reason I'm bringing this up because Cornelius had to be doing what God wanted and what was pleasing in his sight. So this debunks what they're saying that he was a Gentile. And from there, I'm going to go to back to the book of Tobit, chapter 12, and I'm going to go to verse 15. And it reads, I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels, which present the prayers of the saints, and which go in and out before the glory of the Holy One. So this was the angel Raphael, who says let me read that again. He says, I am the angel. I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels, which present the prayers of the saints, and which go in and out before the glory of the Holy One. So this is one of the angels, Raphael. So if you're doing the things that's pleasing in Yahweh's sight, the angels will come and they'll make an intercession too. This is what this angel Raphael was making intercession, because he was saying that he was his obedience of doing prayer and alms had come up to the Lord. So he was being acknowledged for his obedience. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Psalms, because we're going to get the saints. And everyone knows this precept, Psalms 148 and 14. But this was talking about the saints in the last precept in Tobit. So we're going to get the saints. And the saints, it's in 148. And this is what it says. 148 and verse 14, and it reads, He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord. So if you're an Israelite, these are the saints. The Israelites are the saints. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord. So, if the angel was coming to Cornelius, he must have been a saint. And he must have been an Israelite. He had to be an Israelite. If the angel was coming to him, it had to be according to the scriptures. So it has to be as it is written. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah chapter 9. And I'm going to read verse 16 through 17. And it reads, For the leaders of this people cause them to err. They that are led of them are destroyed. Let me read that again. For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. 17. Therefore the Lord shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall have mercy on their fatherless and widows. For every one is a hypocrite, and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. So he's getting into the leaders of our people. They're causing our people to err, because if they're not bringing it out the truth, or as it is written, he's calling them a hypocrite in this passage. Let me read that again. Therefore, this is verse 17. Therefore the Lord shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall have mercy on their fatherless and widows, for every one is a hypocrite, and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Because he wants them to turn and repent. He wants them to return back to him and get back on track and do the things that are pleasing in his sight. And from there, I'm going to stay in the book of Isaiah. I'm going to go to chapter 30. Isaiah chapter 30. And I'm going to read verse 9 through 10. Isaiah 30, verse 9 through 10. And it reads, that this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of the Lord. Verse 10, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. So when the prophets are out there on the streets, and the ones that are bringing the truth with sincerity, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear lies and deceits. This is what the prophet Isaiah says. They don't want to hear us. They want us to get up out the way. They want us off of the corners. And from there, I'm going to go to 1 Samuel chapter 9. 1 Samuel. Let's see. 1 Samuel chapter 9 and verse 9 through 10. Shalakia. My big study Bible. I'll get there. Got the big pages. 1 Samuel 9. And I'm going to read verse 9 through 10. And it reads, before time in Israel, when a man went to inquire of Yahweh, thus he spake, come and let us go to the seer. For he that is now called a prophet was before time called a seer. So the men of the Lord that are out there doing the work, now they're called prophets, but in aforetime they were called a seer. So that's why Isaiah the prophet was saying, they'll say to the seers, don't tell us the right things. Tell us the smooth things. Tell us lies and deceits. They didn't want to hear the truth. But Christ came into the world to give testimony of the truth. And that's what we have to do. We have to do the things that he did. Verse 10, then said Saul to his servant, well said, come let us go, so that Shalakia, let me read that over. Then said Saul to his servant, well said, come, let us go. So they went unto the city where the man of Yahweh was. So Saul and his company that he was with, they went seeking the men, the prophets, or the seers. They went to go and inquire of them of Yahweh. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew, and I'm going to read through chapter 4. Matthew 4, I'm going to read 1 through 7. Matthew 4, and I'm going to read verse 1 through 7. And it reads, then when Yahushua led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, verse 2, and when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterwards hungered. So Yahushua was up fasting, and after that 40 days he was hungry. Verse 3, and when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of Yahweh, command that these stones be made bread. So the devil was trying to tempt him. And then this is what Yahushua said. Verse 4, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of Yahweh. So that's what we have to do. We have to live by every word as it is written. We can't go by the imaginations of our heart. We have to go by how it is written in the scriptures. Verse 5, then the devil taketh him up into the holy city and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple. Verse 6, and saith unto him, if thou be the Son of Yahweh, cast thyself down, for it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Verse 7. Yahushua said unto him, It is written, again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God Yahweh. So every time that he was tempted, he came back with the word. And that's what we have to do. We have to study to show ourselves approved, workers that are not ashamed of the gospel. And we got to rightly divide the word of truth. So we have to that's keeping our armor on by staying in the scriptures, putting the word in our spirit, putting it in our heart. So that way when these fiery darts are thrown at us, like this was happening to Yahushua, the devil was coming at him, he threw the word back at him. That's how he was able to defeat the devil. And from there, I'm going to go to 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. And it reads, Study to show thyself approved. What I was just paraphrasing. Unto Yahweh, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So we can't be ashamed of this truth. We have to bring it out. We have to bring it out as it is written. As it is written. Shalakia for the phone ringing. Shalakia for that. And we're just going to continue on. I'm going to go from there to, and as I was saying, we have to study to show ourselves approved, like Timothy was saying. Study to show ourselves approved unto Yahweh, workmen that needed not to be ashamed. And we have to rightly divide this word of truth. We have to do it as it is written. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Exodus, chapter 23. Seems like when this word comes forth, here comes the devil talking about the devil. The devil cometh immediately. But with that phone ringing, that was the devil coming. So shalakia for the phone ringing. But anytime the word goes forth, it seems like that happens. Exodus 23, verse 2, and it says, Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrestle judgment. So light has no fellowship with darkness. Come out from amongst them. Be not partakers with them. They're all saying the same thing. If the people that are not in the light, you want to come out away from them. You want to hang around the body of Yahushua. People that are on the same mind and on one accord with you. Those are the people you want to be around. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 15, verse 14. Matthew 15, verse 14, and that reads, Shalakia, am I wrong? Matthew 15, verse 14. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. So that's why you don't want to follow a multitude to do evil. You don't want to follow behind a crowd of wicked people or someone that's not teaching the truth. You don't want to be like he said, let them alone. They be like blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. So he's telling us, and there's always one precept to back up another precept, telling us they're all saying the same things. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Genesis. Book of Genesis, chapter 17. Genesis 17, and I'm going to read verse 1 and 2, and it reads, And when this was Abraham, was 90 years old and 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty Yahweh, walk before me and be thou perfect. So he was telling Abraham to be perfect. Just like Yahushua was saying it in Matthew 5 and 48. He said, to be therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Verse 2, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. So we know that everybody was blessed because of faithful Abraham, but they still did us dirty, and they're going to have to pay the price for that. And from there, I'm going to stay in the book of Genesis 17. I'm going to jump down to 7 and read verse 7 and 9. Verse 7. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. Verse 9. And Yahweh said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. So we're supposed to continue doing this throughout our generations. As long as we're having children, they're supposed to keep doing the same things that Abraham did. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of John. See, it has to be written. That's why it has to be as it is written. Book of John, chapter 8. And everyone's familiar with this precept. 8 and verse 32. This is Yahushua speaking. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So it has to be in truth and sincerity. We can't go with the imaginations of our heart. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of John 7. John 7 and verse 38. And that reads, He that believeth on me, and this is Yahushua again, says, He that believeth on me, as the scriptures has said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. So Yahushua is letting it be known how to do it. This is all Yahushua, all through the scriptures. It was all him. But in the Gospels, that's when he was in the flesh. So Exodus, I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 12. And I'm going to read verse 42. And it reads, It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of the Lord to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. So we always have to honor the feast days, the Sabbaths, all these days, because the Lord, he brought us out of the land of Egypt. We were brought out of that bondage. And he's going to bring us out of this bondage, this spiritual Egypt here. Now I'm going to stay in the book of Exodus 12. I'm going to jump down to verse 26 through 27. And it reads, And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? Verse 27, that ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who has passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshiped. So this is how we got delivered. He smote the whole Egyptian army. And this spiritual Egypt, America or Babylon, he's going to smite all these, their powerful elite, their military. He's going to smite all the people that's come against us. This is going to be the same thing happening in this time. And from there, I'm going to the book of Exodus 31. And I'm going to close with this chapter, Exodus 31. And I'm going to read verse 13 through 18. Exodus 31. And I'm going to read verse 13 through 18. And it reads, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbath you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. He separates us from the other nations. Verse 14, Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. So this is serious. You can't be working, buy, selling, trading, lighting a fire on the Sabbath. Lord said he'll put you to death. Verse 15, 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. He said it twice in this passage. Verse 16, Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbaths to observe the Sabbaths throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant, an everlasting covenant. That's what perpetual means, everlasting. Verse 17, it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. He rested on, so the Sabbath is a day of rest that the Lord rested on. Verse 18, and he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him, upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of Yahweh. So this is a cut to people that said, who wrote the Bible? It was written with the finger of Yahweh. That's what it says. And they gave it to Moses on Mount Sinai in Horeb. And with that, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.